Rabbeinu Bechayai, or Bachya, depends how you pronounce it. Also, in his commentary to this verse in Dvarim, says more or less the same ideas. What the Ramban says, he says this is a good tiding. He brings down Chazal, the Midrash Torat Kohanim, in the second line. I don't know if you have the Rabbeinu Bechayai there in English. He said this is also a good tiding, as our sages told us, that the land, that the Jews shouldn't say that we are exiled, therefore, and the enemies are getting pleasure, therefore the land will be, it says that the nations will be astounded at the emptiness, at the barrenness, at the desolation. The enemies that come after you will not find any pleasure there. Adkan, that's up to now the quotation of the Chazal that we read above, he brings down. And from this you see, mi'af sha'al yoshvim ba yinhagu shmama, even those that come upon the land will not again, they will not get any how does it translate it there? They will act upon it like in desolation. Shelo yivneh, they won't build upon it any permanent, chomav and migdal, because they realize that they're only temporary landowners, as we'll see soon some quotations from the non-Jews. And all the nations will try to build it. Ve'en lehem koach, here it's explicit, here they don't have the power to do so. And this is a great sign to the Jewish people, is that since they left the land, it has become desolate, and no other nation received it, and no one will receive it, and no one will be able to be settled therein as a permanent settlement and successful settlement until its chicks come back to it. In other words, the chicks, its babies come back. Also in Breshit, chapter 17, Rabbeinu Bechayai writes, when he talks about the promise to the fathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov were promised the land of Israel, and it says that this will be an eternal inheritance for you and your children after you. I promise you the land for you and your children afterwards, forever. And now the Rabbeinu Bechayai explains in Breshit 17:24 that God promised him that this land will be an eternal inheritance, that no other nations will inherit it or settle therein, only them. And if perchance the Jews will be exiled from it, which is as the Maral explains in the beginning of Netzach Yisrael, chapter 1, if you see the Jews outside the land, that's an unnatural situation. It's like you see a ball in the air. It's against the laws of gravity. It's a temporary situation. It can't last that way. The normal state is of gravity, that the ball comes down to earth. It's connected. So too, if you see it in the air, that's a momentary unnatural state. So too, if the Jews outside the land is not the normal reality. He explains how it takes a divine, so to speak, decree to pull us out of the land, because that's not the normal state, and therefore they will come back, as he says. And if you see perchance that the Jews are exiled from the land, they will certainly return to it, because it is an eternal inheritance for them and not for the nations. On the normal state of the world, of creation, of the healthy state, not some religious decree. The way it's created, the healthy metaphysics of the Jewish people in the land is what we mentioned before at the beginning. That's what brings health and life to all of creation, to the animal kingdom, to the nations, to the Arabs, to all of the world. Taking us away from the land of Israel is not to anyone's benefit. Not only our personal thing, that we could live happily ever after in America. Maybe a Jew can think that. But the world is suffering. And we saw before, God's name is suffering. In Yechezkel 36, with the Jews outside the land is considered a desecration of God's name. Not just considered. We explained that at length. Maybe I shouldn't say it quickly without explaining. But if the vehicle of God's name, this ideal, this energy that comes to the world through that vehicle of the nation and the land, when the Jews are outside the land, God's name is withheld from infusing life and meaning and beauty into this world. That's the desecration of His name. His name, His ideal is now withheld from expression. That's what exile is. Not if it's comfortable, not comfortable. We're talking about on the divine level, the universal picture of reality. God's name is now destroyed, is desecrated, which means it cannot come to full expression when the Jews are not in the land. Because its body, the receptacle, the conduit of that name, that energy, that bridge to this world is not there. That's what's at stake here, not our personal or national. But with the universal, what does that mean? The world is suffering. We mentioned in the beginning, the dark ages and the lack of development of mankind. That's what's at stake here. Not just scientific development. That was just an example. We're talking about bringing up the whole world, the whole kit and caboodle. All of the framework will be uplifted to a higher, fuller dimension of life and meaning and purpose. And that's what's at stake when our not being here. And that can't be, because God created the world to reach that ultimate goal, and that will be. So if you see the Jews are not here, that's a temporary phenomenon that comes to correct certain ailments and problems of what exile does, but to come back to, and it has to come back to, the Maharal explains, not only him, but in the book of Netzach Yisrael, right in that first chapter, that the normal state has to come back. That's the normal, full ideal of creation. All of creation was meant and unfolds to reach that point. That's what the Rabbeinu Bechai says here in passing, that if you see them outside the land, that will not last, because it's an eternal connection and interconnection of life of the Jews to come back to this land. And that is the great sign for the Jewish people, that since we were exiled from the land, again we're talking about 800 years ago approximately, since the Jews were exiled from the land, no other nation has settled therein, but rather Charva v'shomimat, she is destroyed and desolate, until, again, he uses what he said before in Vayikra, until the chicks come back to it.